something. I mean, they might have to do some actions, but here I am with you who are Catholic Christians who are wondering about the theology of the body. Can you imagine if I were somewhere else with a whole host of people, 35 people to 40 people, who were hostile to everything I stood for? Do you think I'd be able to tell that when I walked in the room? Of course. My experience is telling me something, and it's really the truth, isn't it? You know, I could be wrong, but possibly, most probably, I'm not wrong. And this is the kind of little children, when they come up to adults, some little children automatically go to this adult here and stay away from this one. Do they not? Dogs are the same way. Are they not? What are they sensing? See, they're seeing something, or they're experiencing something, are they not? Well, that is a source of truth, is it not? See, but that can be too very subjective, can it? Dan and I can see the same thing and have not a different reaction, but it would be different to some degree. Okay. So, what John Paul II is trying to say is, you cannot dismiss personal experience. You can't do it. You have to deal with it. You deal with it in a certain way, see? Because it is subjective. Now getting back to you, Ann, okay? And your thing. Personal subjectivity is that kind of thing that before sin happened, I could actually look at another person. Let's say I'm Adam and I'm looking at Eve, and I'm seeing her totally the way she really is. There's nothing in between. I'm seeing her total subjectivity. I'm not seeing her as an object. I'm seeing her as a subject, a personal subject, a person. That's what he means by personal subjectivity. When he uses that term, that is a very, very good term when it's used the right way. Okay? Personal subjectivity. In other words, that's what we have to get back to, is in his mind. We have to be able to get back to, we're looking at, husbands are looking at wives, wives are looking at husbands, and they're actually seeing the other person as he or she really is, not the way the individual is looking at her or him. Right. The real subject. Yes.
So we're not just
made in the image and likeness of God. Exactly. It is not a subjective decision on our part at all.
Okay.
It's the ability to see the other person.
Okay.
So indeed, this whole course, a lot of people come up to me and say, well, you know, is this like Crescio? I mean, is this get marriages back together again? I can't imagine anything further from what we're trying to do. If you actually need to see reality that's in front of you, and that helps, then yes, it will definitely help.
So, John,
but it's not meant to do that, right?
So personal subjectivity is seeing the person for who they truly, objectively are.
Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you. That's exactly right. It's right on.
Truly as opposed to really are. Is that what you said?
Truly, really, everything the way they really are. You know,
as opposed to
sin gets in the way of our looking at each other, does it not? Okay? But if we had time enough and we could work at it, and we said enough prayers and did good works, and we had a sacramental life, and Father forgave us our sins over and over and over again, the poor man listening to our sins over and over again. And he forgave us in persona Christi, he forgave us. We would slowly but surely start to see each other as subjects. And that's what I mean by the fact that when you get through a course like this, just like it happens at the University of Sac, when you have a course and you start to learn who the people are and you start to share, you say, whoa, wait a minute, something's going on in this class. And you start to share the internal life that you have. I can't tell you how many personal stories have come out of the class that would never have come out unless there was a communion of persons involved. They start to trust each other, and all at once, this is my life history, and we say, ooh, hey, whoa. Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. In a way, I mean, some heavy duty stuff, very heavy duty. Okay. Now Kant. Instead of going page by page, I'm going to try to get to a couple of things with Kant. Now Kant is of the same. Remember, you know Francis Bacon. You remember Francis Bacon, and you remember Descartes. Okay, Francis Bacon was a philosopher, a statesman, a scientist. He believed in the scientific method. He was hot. In his day, he was number one. I mean, he was a Renaissance man. He was good at everything. But he's the one who sits there and looks at nature and says, well, you know, before the fall, we controlled nature, so that's what we have to get back to, okay? So he's doing all that stuff, and you can read that in the book. They take directly from his works. It's very, very interesting stuff to read. Okay, Descartes comes along and says, and by the way, Descartes, if memory serves me, is one of the ones who was a mathematician par excellence, and I believe he came up with what's the math that just drives everybody crazy? Calculus. He wasn't the only one who came up with calculus, but I think he was one of the ones who came up with calculus in those days. Very, very smart individual. But he's sitting there looking around, he says, you know, I can't trust anything with my brain, because I can sit there and, you know, do all this stuff with my brain. And quite frankly, he was a little bit paranoid, so he says, you say that 2 and 2 equals 4? Well, yeah, but supposing a demon came along and kind of put that in your brain, and, you know, is that really true, or is it going to disappear? I mean, it was just all crazy. The one thing he said was absolutely true that his brain could handle was, I think, therefore I must actually exist. I think, therefore I am. St. Thomas would have done it exactly the opposite, right? I am a human being, therefore I think. See the difference? It's huge. St. Thomas Aquinas was sitting there with his humongous mind and sitting there looking out at all creation, and up until that time, everybody who looked at creation looked on it with what? Awe, right? Everything had a purpose, everything had a final cause, everything had a formal cause, everything had an efficient cause, everything had a material cause. All the causes were there. They were right in line with the Greeks, okay? So basically, everything that I see outside of me, has a value in and of itself. I don't give it its value. See, I see all of you people. If I'm a subjectivist, I'm sitting there saying, your reality to me is what I give you. See? You may be real, but I really don't know that, do I? I'm only seeing colors and sensations. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, fine. Your reality to me is what I make your reality. And Thomas Aquinas is saying, we're made in such a way that we actually can see what's outside of us and actually determine that it's real. That's what he says. And as a matter of fact, we can go with universals. What do we share, Byron? What do we all share in this room? Where there's no muskrats in this room, there's no giraffes, there are no squirrels, there are no deer,